So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be completing the AQA GCSE Maths High November 2019 papers by going through the third calculator paper and going through the answers. Now attached in the description below will be a copy of the paper and the grade boundaries along with the total grade boundaries for all three papers combined out of 240. It says circle the relative frequency that represents 13 successes out of 50 trials. So for here, what we need to do is basically do 13 divided by 50. And if we work that out on our calculator, which I'm just going to find now. And so 13 divided by 50 gives me an answer of 0.26. So that's going to be our fourth option. The next question then says that the equation of a straight line is 2y, work out the gradient. Now when working out the gradient and using y equals mx plus c, you need to make sure that you have got y equals mx plus c. So what we need to do is, because we've got 2y, we need to divide all of these together. So here the gradient is 3, so if I divide that by 2, it's going to be 3 over 2 or 1.5, so this is the second option. For question 3, it's just about expanding the bracket, so that is expanded and simplified. Circle the term which is part of the answer. So again, the easiest way to do this is to just basically do the expansion. So 2x times 3x is 6x squared plus 10x and then minus 12x and then minus 20. So simplifying this, we get 6x squared minus 2x, I don't know what I was doing there, minus 20, and the only one of those three options that we've got is the second option, which is minus 2x. Then moving on to question 4, it says when rounded to 3 sig fig, x equals 3.37, and the question is asking us to circle the correct error interval. Now the third sig fig is 0.01, so it's 100th. If I divide that by 2, I get 0.005. So then I need to add and subtract 0.005 to 3.7. And again, you can do that on your calculator or you can do it elsewhere, but basically it's going to be my first option. For question 5, simultaneous equations. Again, what we need to do here, just going through the checklist, is have I got the same number of x's or the same number of y's? Well, I've got the same number of y's. Are the signs of the y's the same or are they different? They're the same. So what do? Is I take away the two answers. So here I'm going to end up with 4x. Now here one of the letters should disappear, which it does, and I've got 36 take away 16, which is 20. So that means that x equals 5. Then using one of the equations, so using 3x plus 2y equals 16, and that x equals 5. Well, 3x is therefore going to be 15, so 15 plus 2y equals 16. So then 2y equals 1. So then y equals a half. So the answers there are 5 and a half. Or if you want to write that as 0.5, that would be absolutely fine. Then moving on to question 6a, it says that Tom is tiling a wall. He needs to buy at least 100 tiles. The tiles are sold in large packs and small packs. And obviously we've got large packs of 40 tiles is £18, small pack 28 tiles for £14. And special offer is you 25% reduction when you buy 3 or more large packs. So there's only really two options we can go for. We're either going to go for 3 large packs, or we're going to go for two large packs and 1 small. And then we just need to work out the prices, because obviously another alternative would be to buy 4 small packs, but again, it's not going to be, I know straight away it's not going to be cost effective, because technically you are buying 12 extra tiles for £4. So again, it's an option we could look at, and which we will, just to see if the price doesn't quite match up. So to buy 3 packs, it's going to be £18 times 3. And again, if I get my calculator to work that out, 18 times 3 gives me £54. Well, I'm going to get a 25% deduction, so minus 25%. And so that's going to be 54 times 0.75, because I'm only paying 75% of it. And that comes up to a cost of £40.50. In terms of the second option, well, that's going to be 2 times 18 plus 14, so that's going to be 36 plus 14, which equals £50. And obviously then I could go for 4 packs of the small, stick a small there, and that's going to be 4 times 14, and 4 times 14 is going to be, well, let's quickly work it out. Should really use the calculator, but I'm not going to bother. So we've got 16, and that's going to be £56. So the cheapest option is going to be buying the 3 large packs. So here I'm going to say it's £40 and 50p. It's always good to show you working out. In terms of 3 marks, I would say you probably need to show obviously the correct formation of getting the cheapest price, which is that, but any other formation where you get at least 100 tiles should be enough to get you those 3 marks. But again, just doing this alone, in terms of the 3 large packs and working out 10 to 25% discount may not get you the full marks. It all depends on what the mark scheme is saying, but I would always say just spend that extra time to work it out. Now the next question then says that Tom is tiling a floor, and the floor is a rectangle with length 600 centimeters and a width of 240. Each tile is a square of 40 centimeters. Tom uses this method to work out the number of tiles he needs. And so he's just simply worked out the calculation. Give one reason why Tom's method is wrong. Now there are several reasons as to why Tom is wrong in terms of his tiling. Well, the first thing that he's done wrong is that he's added the 2 numbers when really he should have multiplied. If it's a rectangle, you're working on area, which is what you're going to be tiling, you need to multiply, not add. So Tom should have multiplied 15 by 6, not added. And that would probably be the most common answer, in the fact, or maybe should have ordered 90 tiles. So if you actually then worked it out, that would be fine. But others correct statements should have been easily, like should have multiplied, not added, should have multiplied at the end. Adding was wrong. He's added the times of the number of the length by the width. So again, any worded form of that, it needs to work out the area. Something along those lines will definitely get you that 1 single mark. For question 7, an equilateral triangle has sides of 16 meters. The rule, using a ruler and a compass only, so this is all about construction, and we've got to use the scale of 1 centimeter represents 2 meters. Now for this you are going to need a compass, so I'm going to fetch that and show you how to answer this one. Now for question 7, this is a construction question which is going to be very difficult to do without the use of a compass and not me using a computer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through the steps of how you actually do this. Now the key things to remember in this particular question is the scale. So we are using a 1 centimeter represents 2 meters. Now because we want an equilateral triangle of 16 meters, what that's going to convert to and what I need to draw is basically an 8 centimeter equilateral triangle. So what we need to do to start off with is to draw a 8 centimeter line. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to imagine that there is 8 centimeters. Now the next thing you then need to do is set your compass to where I'll just do a really poor sketch of a compass, and here is your pencil and here is your pin. Is you need to make sure that the distance between the pin and the pencil is 8 centimeters. Then putting your pin on the left hand side of this 8 centimeter line, what you then need to do is to draw an arc. Then you then put the pin on the second side of the 8 centimeter line, you draw another arc, and what you should find is that the two arcs should intersect. And then with a ruler, what you then want to do is join those 2 points up to make your equilateral triangle, and then just double check to make sure that that should be 8 centimeters and that should be 8 centimeters as well. Now for question 8, it says that in a choir there are 35 men and 48 women, and it says that the probability, let's just highlight the key of its information, the probability that a man is chosen at random wears glasses is 2/5. The probability that a woman is chosen at random wears glasses is 3/8. And the question is asking us to work out the number of people in the choir who wear glasses. So what we need to do here is first of all multiply the number of men, which is 35, multiply that by the probability that they wear glasses, and we're going to add that to the number of women, which is 48, and multiply that by the probability. So if I enter all that on the calculator, which I'm going to do now, and so here we've got 35 times 2/5, and we're going to add 48 times 3/8, and lo and behold gives us the answer of 32 people. Now the next question then says a person is chosen at random from the choir. Work out the probability that person does not wear glasses. Well, looking at the total number of people, so total number of people in the choir is 35 plus 48, which gives us a total of 80, and that's going to be 83 people. Now from this, 32 wear glasses, so all I need to then do is just do 83, take away 32, which gives me an answer of 51. Now in terms of the question, it says work out the probability, so then I then need to have that over 83, and there is my final answer. Now if I was to give it as a decimal, so either 0.61 or as a percentage, then that would be fine. But personally speaking, I would write it as a fraction, or I would write it as a decimal. In terms of question 9, the question 9 says that a pie chart shows the information about people who work at a theme park. It says there are 400 people, more women than men. Just get my words out right. And the question is asking us to work out the number of children. Now there's a couple of ways in which you can approach this particular question. Let me just zoom out so we've got a bit more room. Now, in terms of this, we can see that the difference in terms of the angle, which is 30, so 30 degrees must be the difference between the men and the women. So 30 degrees equals 450 people. So that means that 1 degree must represent 450 divided by 30, so 450 divided by 30 equals 15 degrees. So 1 degree equals 15 people. Now I then need to work out what the angle of the children is. So the angle for the children is going to be 360 minus 65 minus 35. And again, if I just quickly work that out on my calculator, then what I end up with is 260. So therefore then, if I then, that's how many degrees there are. Well, if 1 degree is 15, I've just got to do 260 times 15, and I get 3,900. And so that's how many children there are. Which kind of makes sense because obviously if you look at the pie chart, although it looks like a big number in comparison, 30 degrees is 450, so it's not 450 is not either the men or the women, that's just the difference. So you are going to expect bigger numbers. Now in terms of question 10, so question 10 says that density equals mass over volume. The mass is divided by 2 and the volume is multiplied by 4. What happens to the density? Well, dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by half, so that's the same as times 0.5. And if I multiply the volume, which is times 4, so if I then got 0.5 over 4, well that then gives me 8, so 1 over 8. So here that's going to be the same as dividing by 8, so here that's going to be the option that we need to select. Now for question 11 it says work out the cube root of 512 in the ratio of the reciprocal of 0.4. So here I've got the cube root of 512, which again if I work that out on my calculator, shift cube root of 512, that gives me 8. And the reciprocal of 0.4, and reciprocal just means 1 over. So if I just do 1 over 0.4 equals 2.5. So here is my ratio of 8 to 2.5. Now what we're wanting is we're wanting the right hand number to be 1. So I've got to divide that by 2.5, and that means I've got to then divide this by 2.5. So here I'm going to end up with 1. And 8 divided by 2.5, I'll just quickly work that out on my calculator, gives me an answer of 3.2. And there is my final answer for question 11. Now for question 12, it says that the graph shows how much Molly is paid for working up to 40 hours. She receives a basic pay for the first 35 hours and then a higher rate for the next 5 hours. So that's why we've got this little deviation in our straight line. So the question is asking us work out the difference between the higher rate pay and the basic rate pay. Give your answer in pounds per hour. Now to work this particular question out, what we need to do is work out the rate of pay in terms of these two areas here. So the rate of pay for this, all I need to do is just divide the two numbers together. So here I've got 280 divided by 35. And if I work that out, so let's just get the calculator out. So 280 divided by 35, and that gives me a value of 8. So we're getting £8 an hour. Now for this area here, well, that's got a gap of 70 going up divided by 5, and 70 divided by 5 is 14, so that's going to be £14 per hour. And the question is asking us to work out the difference, so the difference therefore is going to be 14 take away 8, which is £6. So the difference in the pay is going to be £6. Let's just write that there. Now, question 13 says that Naga states the hypothesis that most people read more than 100 books per year. She asked a sample of 5 people in a book club how many books they read last month. The table shows the results. And the question is asking us for part A, show how Naga could use the data to support her hypothesis. So what Naga could do is to work out, let's get a pen that works. So she could work out how much each person read in a year, and you could do that by multiplying their monthly answers by 12, and then she could work out the average. So work out the average and see if it's above 100. So what we'd have to do here is if we added up all of these numbers, so we've got 10 plus 11 plus 8, let's sort that sign out, plus 10 plus 13. I'm going to multiply that by 12 and divide that by 100. Well, actually not divide that by 100 because we've already got 5 people. So divide that by 5 and see if it equals over 100, in which I think it's 124.8, which is above 100, so she's correct. Now, do we need to go into that much detail? Maybe for 2 marks. I don't think we did, but again, something along the lines of that you'd work how you'd use the data to show that Naga would support her hypothesis. We go from there. Now the next question says give 2 reasons why the sample should not be used to support her hypothesis. Now there's going to be several answers on this one, so you could say that her sample is biased. And the reason for that is because she's asking a book club. She's asking people who we know read. Obviously not going to go to a book club and not read. And obviously the second reason why it shouldn't be used is because the sample size is too small. And if you've done any form of statistics, you should know that any sample size you're going to record data from should be above 30, or at least a bigger percentage of the whole population. Now in other answers you could give, so again the 2 common ones are there. So they may not read at the same rate over a month. So for example, they may read more at Christmas, or they may read more in the winter, because obviously not going out, and less in the summer. So any of those kind of reasons would be absolutely fine. So again, you should ask a lot more people. So any sort of variations of what I've just said in written form should be absolutely fine. The only areas where you may get only 1 mark is that she needs to use data for more months, and the results of just 5 people used. So if you only gave 1 reason, you only get 1 mark. So you need 2 reasons, obviously, 2 distinct reasons to get the 2 marks for that particular question. Now question 14 says that a graph has the equation of x cubed plus a, where a is an integer. The graph passes through the point 329. Use the graph to find the values from -3 to 3. So what we need to do is plot this. Now what we need to do here is find out what a is first. So for this, 3 is our x value and y is our 29. So what I've got is I've got 29 equals 3 cubed plus a. Now in terms of working this out, I've got 29 equals, and that's going to be 27 plus a, so a equals 2. So the equation that I need to plot is y equals x cubed plus 2. Now in terms of the range of x values that I've got, if I just zoom out so we can actually see that, is I've got this. So I need to create a table of values. So I've got -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. And these are all my x values, and I need to work out what the y values are going to be. Now again, I can either use a calculator or you can just use your brain. So -3 cubed is going to be -27, plus 2 is -25, -2 cubed is -8, plus 2 is -6, -1 cubed is -1, plus 2 is +1, 0 is going to be 2, then 1 squared, the 1 cubed, sorry, is 1, plus 2 is 3, 2 cubed is 8, plus 2 is 10, 3 cubed is 27, plus 2 is 29. So what I now need to do is plot these coordinates. So I've got -3 is at -25, so that's that point there. -2 is at -6, which is there. -1 is at 1, which is there. 0 is at 2, which is there. Then at 1 it's at 3, which is there. 2 it's at 10, so nice easy one, and at 3 it's at 29, like so. And then what we then need to do is then join these points. Now it is really important that you do join these points up, so let me choose a different color, and this is where it becomes an epic fail. So if I start with this point here, now you just need to make sure that your curve goes through all of those points, and I've just missed that one. Need to make sure it is, and it does need to be like an S shape. So the more you can get it to more of an S shape. Actually, let's do this properly, and let's join those points up like so, and that should be enough for you to get the marks. Now moving on to our next question, question 15. It says, when you earn money you pay income tax. Unfortunately that is true. The amount you pay depends on how much you earned that year. So your pay is 0% on the first 12,500, 20% on 37 to 5,000 you earn, and then 40 pence on the rest of it. In 1 year Kim pays 9,260. Work out how much she has earned in that year. So to work this particular question out, the first thing I need to do, well, the thing I notice is that because Kim is paying 9,260 in income tax, that she's going to be earning more than 37,500. So first of all, let's work out how much of that 20% is from that amount. So here I've got to work out what 20% is of 37,500, and type that into my calculator gives me 7,500. Now if I then take that away from 9,260, I get an answer of 1760. Now this is 40% of what she is going to be earning. So if I then divide that by 0.4, then what I end up with is I'm going to end up with 4,400 pounds. Now in terms of this, to work out what her salary is, I need to add 7,500, 4,400, and not forgetting that 12,500. So overall salary is going to be 12,500 plus 7,500 plus 4,400, and that comes up to a total of 5,400. And there is our answer for that one. Now moving on to question 16. So it says that a building company employs 2 labourers, 14 joiners, 9 electricians and 8 plumbers for a job. The company needs 1 of each type of worker. In how many ways can the company choose the 4 workers? So this is moving on to problems of combinations. Now the quickest way of doing this is basically just to simply multiply all the numbers together, and that'll give us our total combination. If I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 2016. Question 16b says 1 labourer and 2 plumbers are on holiday. How many different ways can the company now choose the 4 workers? So again, all I need to do is just subtract a labourer, so that's now going to be 1, and subtract 2 plumbers, so that's now going to be 6. But again, all I then need to do is just simply multiply those numbers again. So again, the numbers I'm going to be multiplying are 1 times 14 times 9 times 6, and that gives me a total of 756. Now moving on to our next question, question 17, which relates to functions. So it says f of x equals 3x squared minus 4x plus 8 for all values of x. Jenny says that f of 10 must equal 2 lots of the 5 of the function because 10 is 2 times 5. Is Jenny correct? Well, let's have a look. So the first thing we do is find out what the function of 10 is going to equal. So here all I need to do is substitute x equals 10. So I've got 3 lots of 10 squared minus 4 lots of 10 plus 8. And again, if I enter that into my calculator, and let's not be lazy, so I've got 3 bracket 10 squared minus 4 10 plus 8, and that gives me a total of 268. Now to find f of 5, I do the same, so I'm going to do 3 of 5 squared minus 4 lots of 5 plus 8. And what Jenny's saying is if I times that by 2, I get the same answer. So let's first of all work this out. So again, get the calculator out. 3 5 squared minus 4 lots 5 plus 8 equals 63. And if I times that by 2, I'm going to get 126. And as you can see, these two numbers are not the same. So Jenny is incorrect. Now in terms of the next question, question 18, it says work out the 2 roots of these two. Now the 2 roots, circle both roots. So to work out the roots, all we need to do is make each of the brackets equal to 0. So here, just do a bit of rearranging. So I've got 7x equals minus 1. So x equals minus 1 over 7. So that's one root, which is this one here. And then for the second one, I've got 2x minus 3 equals 0. So 2x equals 3. X equals 3 over 2, which is the fourth option. Now again, with this, you'd only get marks if the 2 circled are correct. So if you just got 1, you won't get half marks. Now question 19, it says here is a cuboid. It says DH is 8 centimeters, D to B is 13 centimeters, and the question is asking us to work out the angle of DBH. Now this question straight away looks like it's going to be a 3D trig question. So that is the angle that I need to work out. So for this, can I work it out straight away? Yes, I can, because it's just a 2D trig question. It's actually not 3D. I'll take that back. So I've got 8 and 13, and x is what I want to work out. So labelling my triangle, I've got the opposite and the adjacent, so I need to use tan. So tan x equals 8 over 13. So x is going to equal the inverse tan of 8 over 13. And if I then quickly just simply type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 31.6 something, and that's to 1 decimal place. Now because there's no rounding, if you were, didn't state what they want it rounded to, you could just write down whatever's on your calculator and that would be absolutely fine. But I certainly would have at least one number after the decimal point. 19b says use your answer in part A to work out the angle of ECG. Now let's have a look at what the angle ECG looks like. So E is here, C is here, and G is there. So it's this angle here that I'm wanting to work out. Now it's only worth 1 mark, so for this, all I then need to do is simply, well, in terms of working out the angle, that is going to be the same as basically what this angle here is. So if this angle here is 31.6, to work out what that angle there is, all I need to do is do 90, take away from 31.6, so 90 minus 31.6, and that should give you an answer of 58.4 degrees. Now obviously if you end up with a decimal, if you've round this up to let's say more decimal places, then your answer for B should be that little bit more accurate. Looking at question 20, it says that P has a coordinate of minus 1, 1, is a point on the circle with centre 0, centre O should say, and radius R. Work out the radius, work out the R basically is what we need to work out. Well, looking at this, if this is the line that I need to work out, so for example, this green line, that's R. This distance here is 1, because that's minus 1 across. And that distance there is 1. So to work out R, I just need to use Pythagoras. So it's 1 squared plus 1 squared equals R squared. So R squared equals 2. So the answer then is going to be the square root of 2. It's a nice easy question, that one, for a question. Now with question 21, it says that juice is sold in small bottles and large bottles. The volume of a large bottle is 1,125 millilitres. And we've got the ratio of a small bottle to a large bottle is 2 to 5. A cafe has large glasses and small glasses. The volume of a small glass to volume of a large glass is 4 to 7. A small bottle fills 6 small glasses with no juice left over. How many large glasses can be filled by the large bottle? Now this one is quite a big question. It's worth 4 marks. So let's have a look at what the steps we need to do first. Well, the first thing I need to do is work out the volume in a small bottle. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to do 1,125, and that's 5 parts. So if I divide that by 5, that'll tell me what 1 part is, and I then multiply that by 2 because a small bottle is 2 parts. That gives me an answer of 450 ml. So here, that's going to be 450 ml. Now in terms of the second part, where the second mark comes in, is we then need to work out the millilitres in a small glass. Now how I do that? Well, it says that a small bottle fills 6 small glasses. So I do the milliliter of a small bottle divided by 6 because there's 6 glasses, and that tells me that the millilitres in a small glass is 75 ml. So this is 75 ml. Now that, the third part, what I then need to do is work out the millilitres in a large glass. Well, for that, all I then need to do, well, if 75 is 4 parts, so I divide that by 4, and a large glass is 7 parts, so I multiply the answer by 7, I get the answer of 131.25 millilitres. Now, in terms of coming up to the final question, well, it's how many glasses could a large bottle fill in a large glass? Well, if a large bottle has 1,125 millilitres and a large glass holds 131.25 millilitres, then the calculation I need to do is 1125 divided by 131.25. And if I type that into my calculator, so 1125 divided by 131.25, it gives me an answer of around about 8. So it's 8.51. I've lost the number. Let's get that back. 5, 7, 7, 14, 28. So it works out to be 8 glasses. Because obviously you don't want to go to a bar and order a fraction of a glass. So our final answer is 8 glasses. So moving on to question 22, it says that the only solution to x squared plus bx plus c equals 0 is x equals 5. Work out the values of b and c. Well, if the only answer is 5, that means that the quadratic should factorise to give me this. So all I then need to do is expand the brackets. That's x minus 5, x minus 5. And expanding the brackets gives me x squared minus 10x plus 25. So this is going to be my value of b, which is minus 10. And this is going to be my value of c, so c is 25. Now looking at question 26, it says here is a triangular sail, and part A says Vicky needs to buy waterproofing liquid for the sail. She puts 3 coats of liquid on each side of the sail. A litre of liquid covers 8.5 square metres of the sail, and how many 1 litre bottles of liquid does Vicky need? It's worth 3 marks. Now I'd say this question is a bit stingy for 3 marks, but let's have a look. So in terms of the area of the sail, which is what we need to work out first. Now because I don't know it is a triangle, I don't know the perpendicular height, so what I need to do is I need to use the sine rule to work out what the area is. So the area is going to be equal to a half AB sine C. Now in terms of labelling, this is going to be A, that's going to be B, and that's going to be C. So the area of the sail is going to be 0.5 times 9.7 times 3.8 times sine of 73, and that should give me an answer of around about 17.6 meters squared. Now for this, she's going to be painting 3 coats on each side, so I'm going to need 6 coats needed. So if I then multiply that number by 6, which I'm going to do now, so I've got 17, well let's just enter the whole formula in, so 0.5 times 9.7 times 3.8 multiplied by sine of 73, and that gives me my answer, and I times that by 6, and that gives me 105.748, so 105.748 is needed. So in terms of this, how many, with 1 bottle covers, so that's the total meter square, the total coverage of 6 coats. Now if 1 bottle is 8.5, so what I need to do is then divide that by 8.5, so hopefully it's still on my calculator, divided by 8.5, and it gives me an answer of 12.44 litres. So that's how many litres I'm going to need. So how many 1 litre bottles am I going to need to buy? Well, I'm going to need 13 bottles. Now looking at question 23, it says that x to y is a quarter to 2/3. What is x as a fraction of y? So for this, all we need to do is just do a quarter over 2/3, and if I type that into my calculator, it should give me 3/8. Now moving on to question 24. So this is moving on to transformations. So it says shape A and shape B are shown on the grid. Describe the transformation that maps A to B. So I'm going from A to B. Now you can see here that the shape has changed. So it's going to be an enlargement. Now when you are describing an enlargement, you need to know the scale factor. And the scale factor here is going to be, well, it's sort of a half. And because it has flipped, it's going to be minus a half. And then what we then need to do is then find our center of, let's use a ruler. So let's first of all get rid of that. So to find our center, we just need to join the adjacent lines together. So just join the line with that there, which may be a little bit difficult using the computer. And if it was on paper, it'd be a lot quicker. And another line drawn. So, and then just to confirm, get another line drawn, all 3 points, and you can see that all of those 3 points go through the same coordinate, and that is 1 minus 1. And that would be the 3 marks. So you'd get 1 mark for stating each of those 3 elements. So 1 mark for enlargement, 1 mark for scale mark being minus a half, and 1 mark for the center of enlargement. So moving on to question 25, it says here is a sketch of a speed time graph and the first part of the journey. So the question is asking us the total distance of the journey is 130 kilometers, and the question is asking us how far is left to travel. Now the key principle with a speed time graph is that distance is equal to the area under the graph. So what I'm needing to do is I need to work out the area of these 3 sections. So I need to work out the area of this triangle here, which I'm going to label A, this rectangle, which I'm going to label B, and this trapezium, which I'm going to label as C. Now, before I start even working out what those areas are going to be, I need to make sure that the units are the same. Now, the problem I've got here is that the speed is in kilometers per hour, which is fine, but the time is in minutes. So what I need to do first is work out the time difference of these three sections, but I need to convert them into hours. So here I've got 5 minutes, here I've got 40 minutes, and here I've got 15 minutes. So what I need to do first is convert those times into hours. So 5 minutes is 5 over 60 hours. Now I'm just going to leave it as unsimplified fractions, but if you want to simplify that as write it as 1 over 12, that's entirely up to you. 40 minutes is going to be 40 over 60 hours, and 15 minutes is going to be 15 over 60 hours. So now working out the areas of each of those three sections, so area A, which is a triangle, which is the height, which is 102, multiplied by the length, which is 5 over 60, and that's all divided by 2. Then area B is going to be 40 over 60 times 102, and then area C, which is a trapezium, is going to be the two parallel sides, which is 96 plus 102, multiplied by the height, which is 15 over 60, and all divided by 2. So working each of those three sections out, I get this is 4.25 kilometers. The second section, area B, is 68 kilometers, and our third section there is going to be 24.75 kilometers. Now, in terms of the distance travelled so far, well, that's going to be the three numbers added together. So it's 4.25 plus 68 plus 24.75, which comes up to 97 kilometers. So the distance left, which is what the question's asking me, is going to be 130 minus 97, which gives me a final answer of 33 kilometers. Now, in terms of 26b, it says that another cell is joined to the first cell as shown, and the question is asking us, with x being an acute angle, work out angle x. So first things first, in order to work out angle x, I need to know what another side of the triangle is going to be, of this second cell is going to be. Now, the only side that's joined to that original cell is this one here. Now, to find this out, what I'm going to need to do is I need to use the cosine rule to work that out. So if I just call this little a, so to work out what a is, so a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. Now, if I substitute the numbers in, I've got a squared equals, and it's going to be 9.7 squared plus 3.8 squared minus 2 lots of 9.7 times 3.8 times cos of 73. Now, if I type that into my calculator, which I'm going to do now, so I've got 9.7 squared plus 3.8 squared minus, now I always tend to put the 2bc cos a in brackets, times 9.7 times 3.8 multiplied by cos of 73 equals, and I get 86.97. So then working out what a is, and so if I then square root that answer, I get 9.362. There's 26, so 9.326, and there's a few decimals there. Now, to then find out what x is, what I now need to do is use the sine rule. And so to work using the sine rule, I need to do opposite sides. So here I've got that 8 over sine 42 is going to be equal to 9.326 over sine x. Now again, to work this out, all I need to do is then do some cross multiplying. So I've got 8 sine x equals 9.326 over sine 42, oh no, that's going to equal, that's going to equal 9.326, and if you've added some decimals, that's fine, sine 42. And then take the 8 over, so divide that by 8, so I get sine x equals 9.326 sine 42 divided by 8, and then x equals the inverse sine of that answer, which once I've done that, we can then enter it into the calculator. So let's have a look. So we've got, now let me just double check I've got that 9.62 numbers. Yes, I have, so that's great. So I can do, to work that accurately, I do the inverse sine, and then I set up a fraction. I've got the answer times sine 42, close bracket, and scroll to the bottom, divided by 8, and then close that final bracket so we can get an error, and that gives me 51.26. So x equals 51.26. And then if I then want to round that up, is it acute? Yes, so that's good. So then here, what we've got as my answer is 51. I'm going to round it up to one decimal place, but how you want to round it is entirely up to you. You could even round it to 51, and that should still give you full marks. So looking at question 27, it's a vectors question. I can see that straight away. So it says here is a quadrilateral PQRS, and we've got our vectors from each point. Now the information that we're given is that x is a point on PS where P to X to X to S is 1 to 2, and Y is a point on RQ where R to Y to Y to Q is 2 to 1. And what the question is asking us, which is on the other page, is X to Y parallel to P to Q? Now, first things first, let's just work out what some of these vectors are going to be and how we actually go about writing these. Now, in terms of the diagram of using this information, what we need to do is from P to S, which is this line here, needs to split up into 3 parts. Now, the first part, so that's going to be third, so this equals 3 parts. Now, if I then just draw a line representing this, just so it's a bit bigger so it's not going to hurt your eyes. So S, now this is in 3 parts, and the reason why I've got 3 is because I've got 1 plus 2. Now all of this distance is A, but P to X is 1 part, so that's going to be 1/3 of A, and X to S is 2 parts, so that's going to be 2/3 of A. So in terms of working those individual distances out, that's going to be 1/3 A, and X to S is going to be 2/3 A. Now going back to our Q to R, and let's just label this. It says that the total distance is C, but we've got to split this up also into 3 parts. So here, Q to Y is our smaller part, so that's going to be 1/3 of C, and Y to R is going to be 2/3 of C. Now going back to this, so if I just label the individual parts, so if I just well, it's going to be a bit difficult, but let's just try and add that up. So this from P to X, I can even write it down. So P to X, different colour, is equal to 1/3 A. X to S is 2/3 of A, and then R to Y is going to be 2/3 C, and Y to Q is 1/3 of C. Now going back to the question, so is XY parallel to PQ? Well, to go to P to Q, the vector is going to be A plus B plus C. So that's A plus B plus C. Now to go from X to Y, or to go to X to Y, what do I need to do? Well, I need to go from X to S, then S to R, and then R to Y. Now, using these measurements here, and obviously the diagram, let's complete that. So X to S is 2/3 A, so 2/3 of A, plus B, which is, well, sorry, S to R, which is just B, and I've got r to y, which is 2/3 of c. Now, are the two lines parallel? Well, no, they're not. So no, xy is not parallel to PQ, as there is no common multiple. So for the lines to be parallel, there needs to be a number that I can multiply this to get this. Now, unfortunately, there isn't, because if the b had 2/3, then it would be parallel, but because the b is by itself and isn't 2/3, then it's not parallel. So that there is going to be my answer, and that should be enough for the 3 marks. Now, coming up to our last question, it says, which is looking at functions, it says that f of x is 2x minus 3, g of x is x squared. Show that the inverse function of f of 55 is equal to fg of 4. Now, the first thing I need to do for this question is work out what the inverse function of f is going to be. Now, to work this out, what I need to do is make f of x equal to y. So I've got y equals 2x minus 3. And then I want to make x a subject. So I'll get y plus 3 divided by 2 equals x. So the inverse function of x is going to equal y plus, x plus 3 divided by 2. So that's my inverse function. Now, to work out what the inverse function of 55 is going to be, what I need to do is just substitute 55 into this. So I've got 55 plus 3 divided by 2, which gives me 58 divided by 2. So 58 divided by 2 equals 29. And then if I then work out fg of 4, so fg, so fg is where I'm substituting my g into f. So it's going to be 2 and then x squared minus 3. So that's the function. So fg of 4 is going to be 2 lots of 4 squared minus 3. So if I enter that on my calculator, let's see what I get. So I get 2, 4 squared minus 3 equals 29. And so there you can see that I'm getting the same answer. And so writing all of this in here would be fine to get the 4 marks. Now, if you want to tally up all the marks you've done for this particular exam paper, I'll put the grade boundaries in the description below for you to see what you got individually on this paper. Now, also attached in the description, I will put the final combined grade boundaries of all the total scores of the 3 papers added together.